Have you ever read a news article, watched a video, or heard something online that felt completely true, until you found out it wasn't? Maybe it was a story that spread like wildfire on social media, a shocking headline, a dramatic image, or a clip of someone saying something unbelievable. You might have shared it with a friend, only to learn later it was fake. That moment, when reality cracks and you realize you've been fooled, can be unsettling. But it's not your fault. It's happening to all of us, more often than we think. We live in a time when information is everywhere, all the time. Our phones vibrate with news alerts, our social feeds are full of opinions, and videos are just one click away. But in this constant flow of content, how can we tell what's real and what's not? That's what today's lesson is about. Not just how to speak better English, but how to understand the world better in English. Because if you can think clearly in English, you can navigate this global information storm more confidently. So here's a simple but powerful question: can you trust what you see? If I showed you a video of a world leader saying something shocking, something that could start a war, would you believe it? What if I told you it was created by artificial intelligence? His face, his voice, the emotion, all fake, yet so perfect that even experts were fooled. That's not science fiction. That's now. We are entering a world where technology can imitate truth so well that the line between real and fake becomes almost invisible. This is not just about fake news articles anymore. This is about deepfakes, AI-generated videos that can make anyone say or do anything. It's about manipulated images, bots pretending to be people, and headlines designed to provoke, not to inform. And here's the paradox. We have more access to information than ever, but we also face more confusion. The more we scroll, the less we trust. But why does this matter for you as an English learner? Because language is your tool for understanding. It's how you think, connect, and protect yourself from manipulation. Learning English today isn't just about grammar and vocabulary. It's about learning to think critically in a global language, and to question what seems obvious. In this digital age, English isn't just a skill, it's your filter against confusion. Let's take a step back and look around us. Every day, millions of people scroll through headlines, watch videos, and absorb content without questioning its source. We hear phrases like breaking news or exclusive footage and assume they are trustworthy. But often, these phrases are used to grab attention, not to present truth. News is now a competition for your time and your emotion. The more shocking, the more viral. The more emotional, the more clicks. And that's the trap. Think about how many times you've seen the same story repeated across different platforms. It feels true because it's everywhere. But being repeated doesn't make something real. In fact, one of the strongest weapons of fake news is repetition. If you hear something often enough, your brain starts to believe it, especially when it confirms what you already feel. And here's where it gets deeper. Fake news is not always completely false. Sometimes it's partly true, just twisted a little. A real photo used with a fake story. A real quote taken out of context. A statistic presented in a misleading way. It's not the kind of lie you can easily see. It's the kind that makes you say, "That sounds about right," and that's what makes it dangerous. So how do we fight this? Not with anger, not by shouting, but by slowing down. By learning to ask better questions. Who published this? Why are they telling me this? What's the source? Is there another side to the story? These questions are not only useful for staying informed, they are also great tools for language learning. When you ask deep questions in English, you activate your thinking. And when your thinking is strong, your language becomes powerful. That's why in the next part, we'll explore what's really happening behind the screen. Why is fake news spreading so fast? Who benefits from it? And how is AI changing the way we see reality? The answers may surprise you, and they'll definitely sharpen your English. So, let's look closer at this strange paradox. In a world full of information, why is it getting harder to know what's true? Think about it this way. Imagine walking into the world's largest library. There are millions of books, articles, and videos. Some are true. Some are completely false. And some are a mix of both. But there are no labels. No warning signs. No guide to tell you what to trust. That's what the internet is like today, especially social media. Here's the dilemma. We rely on digital platforms to stay informed, but those same platforms are designed to show us what we like, not what is true. The more you click on a certain type of content, the more the algorithm gives you the same kind of content. If you're curious about conspiracy theories, guess what? You'll start seeing more of them. If a dramatic news story grabs your attention, you'll get more of that too. The internet is becoming a mirror of your preferences, not a window to the truth. And here's the question we need to ask. Are we choosing what we believe, or is it being chosen for us? Let's talk about algorithms. These are invisible systems that decide what you see online. They're not evil by design, but they're not neutral either. Their job is to keep you watching, scrolling, and clicking. So they prioritize content that's emotional, sensational, and addictive. And guess what kind of news is the most emotional and addictive? That's right, fake news. In fact, studies have shown that false stories spread 6 times faster on social media than true ones. Why? Because fake stories are often more surprising, more extreme, and more entertaining. A real headline might say, "Scientists discuss climate change strategies." A fake one might say, "Scientists admit climate change is a hoax." Which one do you think gets more attention? This is why fake news isn't just a mistake. It's a business model. Many websites create shocking, misleading headlines on purpose. They know people will click. And with every click, they make money from ads. That's why some people call this a click economy. In this system, truth isn't the goal, attention is. But it gets even more complicated. Because now, we have deepfakes. These are videos created using artificial intelligence to look completely real. A deepfake can make a politician appear to say something they never said. It can put someone's face on another person's body, making it look like they did something they never did. The technology is improving so fast that even experts sometimes struggle to tell the difference. Imagine a video shows a president declaring war. The footage is clear, the voice is accurate, the setting looks real. But it's completely fake. How would you know? How long would it take to discover the truth? And how much damage could be done before that happens? This is why we're not just dealing with bad information. We're dealing with a new kind of warfare, a battle for reality. And in this battle, your attention is the prize. Now, some people say, "I don't believe anything anymore." But that's also dangerous. When people stop trusting all news, they become passive. They stop asking questions. They stop caring. And that's exactly what the creators of fake news want. Not just to fool you, but to make you give up on truth altogether. So here's the challenge: how do we stay informed without being manipulated? How do we keep our minds open but also protected? The first step is awareness. Just knowing that algorithms shape your view of the world changes how you see things. The second step is curiosity. If something seems strange, emotional, or too perfect, pause. Ask why. Look deeper. Seek out different sources. And the third step is what we're doing right now, learning the language of truth. Because English is not just about words, it's about understanding how ideas are built, how arguments are made, and how evidence is shown or hidden. In the next part, we'll go behind the scenes. Who's controlling this information flow? Who profits from confusion? And how can understanding these systems help you become not only a smarter English learner, but a wiser global citizen? Let's step behind the curtain now. You've probably heard phrases like the media, big tech, or information warfare, but what do they really mean? And who's pulling the strings? First, let's be clear, not all media is fake or biased. Many journalists still do honest, important work. But the systems around them, the economic and political systems, have changed. In the past, news organizations relied mostly on subscriptions. If people trusted them, they paid for good journalism. But now, the internet has shifted the model. Most media outlets rely on ad revenue. That means the more clicks, the more money. So, what kind of news brings the most clicks? The answer is the same across the world: fear, anger, scandal, and drama. Calm, balanced reporting doesn't go viral. But a sensational headline? A shocking image? That spreads fast. And that's why even trustworthy platforms sometimes fall into the trap of exaggeration, because they're competing in a digital race for your attention. Now add another layer: algorithms. YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, none of them simply show you content in a neutral way. Their systems study your behavior. They learn what makes you pause, what makes you scroll faster, what you share with friends. And based on that, they serve up more of the same. It's not personal, it's data-driven. But the result is very personal. Your online world becomes a reflection of your habits, not of the real world. And here's where it gets more serious. These platforms don't just amplify entertainment. They amplify political messages, social movements, and sometimes dangerous lies. Political groups, corporations, even foreign governments have learned to use these systems to influence public opinion. They create targeted ads, fake accounts, and misleading content designed to divide people and create chaos. Why? Because confusion weakens unity. And when people are divided, they're easier to control. Let's look at a real-life example. During major elections in the United States, the United Kingdom, and even some Asian countries, fake news stories were deliberately spread to create fear, distrust, or anger. Some of these stories were created by foreign actors, meaning governments or organizations from outside the country, trying to influence the vote. They used emotional language, false statistics, and deepfake videos. And it worked. Many voters made decisions based not on facts, but on manipulated feelings. You might be wondering, can't governments or tech companies stop this? They're trying. There are fact-checking services, content moderation teams, and even AI tools that try to detect deepfakes. But the truth is, the technology is moving faster than the rules. Every time a fake is taken down, a new one appears. It's like trying to clean the ocean with a spoon. That's why we, as individuals, need to become more responsible and aware. Understanding the system doesn't mean becoming paranoid. It means seeing the digital world for what it really is, not a place of pure truth, but a battlefield of influence. And here's something else to consider. When we share something online, whether true or false, we're part of that system. Every retweet, every like, every comment gives more power to that piece of content. So, the question becomes not just what do you believe, but what are you spreading? You may not be a journalist. You may not work in tech. But you are part of the global information network. Your actions, what you read, share, and question, matter more than ever. In this way, every English learner is also a global thinker. Because language gives you access to perspectives from around the world. And with access comes responsibility. In the next part, we'll explore why so many people, even educated ones, fall for fake news. What is it in our minds, our psychology, that makes us believe lies? Why do some people see the truth while others deny it, even when it's obvious? The answers lie deep in how humans think, feel, and connect. And understanding this can make your English learning journey even more meaningful. Now let's shift our focus to something much more personal, human psychology. Because it's not just the algorithms or media that spread fake news. It's also us. Our brains. Our habits. Our fears. Even the smartest people can believe false information. Why? Let's begin with a simple truth. The human brain loves patterns. We are natural storytellers. When something happens, we want to explain it. We want reasons. We want a narrative that makes sense. But sometimes, reality is complicated or random. And when things feel uncertain, we look for stories that give us a sense of order and control. This is why conspiracy theories are so attractive. They offer simple explanations for complex events. Instead of saying, there were many factors behind this crisis, a conspiracy says, it was planned by them. Instead of accepting that an accident happened, it says, nothing is an accident. And even though these stories are false, they feel emotionally satisfying. They make us feel like we know something important, something others don't. Another powerful force is confirmation bias. This means we tend to believe information that supports what we already think, and ignore information that challenges us. For example, if you believe that a certain politician is corrupt, and you see a fake news story about them doing something illegal, you're more likely to believe it, even if it's false. Your brain says, I already knew this, and accepts the new evidence without checking. On the other hand, if a story goes against your beliefs, you may immediately reject it, even if it's true. This is not because people are stupid. It's because our minds are emotional first, logical second. We are wired to protect our identity and our group. So if a piece of news threatens how we see ourselves, or our community, we often respond with emotion, not reason. And social media intensifies this effect. When we see that our friends or favorite influencers believe something, we feel social pressure to agree. We don't want to be the one who says, wait, is this true? Because that might lead to conflict or isolation. This is known as groupthink, and it happens in every culture, every generation. Let's take a moment to compare generational reactions. Older adults, for instance, often trust traditional-looking information, like news headlines or serious voices. But deepfakes can now imitate those signs of credibility. On the other hand, younger people may feel skeptical of traditional news, but overly trust things that seem authentic, like a viral video or a casual podcast. Every generation has its blind spots. There's also a difference across cultures. In some societies, questioning authority is normal, even expected. In others, it's seen as disrespectful. So when fake news comes from a trusted figure, people may not feel comfortable doubting it. This is why media literacy must be adapted to each cultural context. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. We must also understand the emotional needs behind why people believe. During crises, like pandemics, wars, or economic collapse, fake news becomes even more powerful. People feel afraid, and fear creates a hunger for certainty. If a fake story offers a clear enemy or an easy solution, it feels comforting, even if it's dangerous. Think about the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. Rumors spread faster than the virus itself. Some people believed garlic could cure the virus. Others said it was all a hoax. Some blamed specific countries or ethnic groups. These beliefs weren't just wrong, they caused real harm. People refused to wear masks. Businesses were attacked. Lives were lost. All because of misinformation mixed with fear. That's why understanding our emotional reactions is key. Fake news doesn't only enter through the eyes or ears. It enters through the heart. So what can we do? First, recognize your emotions. If a piece of news makes you feel angry, afraid, or excited, pause. That's the moment to ask, why do I feel this way? Is this fact, or is it manipulation? Second, train your curiosity. Seek out different sources. Compare headlines from different countries. Ask people with different opinions how they see the issue. Don't argue, ask. Listen. And third, use language as a tool, not just for communication, but for discovery. Every new word you learn in English helps you read more, understand more, question more. It's not just about passing an exam, it's about navigating a world full of half-truths and noise. In the next part, we'll take a more hopeful turn. What does it mean to wake up in the digital age? How can you protect your mind and help others do the same? Truth may be under attack, but critical thinking is still our greatest defense. And it starts with one very simple, very powerful thing: awareness. Awareness begins quietly. It's not loud, not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. In fact, it often starts with a pause, a moment when you stop and ask, wait, is this really true? That small pause can be the beginning of something life-changing. Many people imagine an awakening as a big event, something shocking that changes your worldview overnight. But for most of us, it's a slow unfolding. You begin to notice things. Patterns. Repetitions. The same language, the same fears, appearing again and again in different forms. And you realize, not everything you've been shown is neutral. Not every voice is honest. Not every answer is true. But awakening is not about becoming cynical or paranoid. It's about becoming clear. Seeing the world not through fear or anger, but through understanding. And to do that, we need tools, mental tools, emotional tools, and yes, linguistic tools. Because language shapes how we think. And learning English isn't just about grammar, it's about gaining access to global conversations, diverse ideas, and international sources of truth. Here's a powerful idea: you don't need to change the world. You just need to see it clearly. That alone is a form of resistance in a noisy, manipulated digital age. Clear vision allows you to choose your actions with intention. It helps you stop the spread of lies, even if only in your own circle. And it gives you strength, not through control, but through awareness. Some people ask, but what can one person do? A lot, actually. Imagine this, if every person watching this video paused before sharing something emotional, just once a day, how many false stories could be stopped? If each learner asked one thoughtful question instead of reacting with judgment, how many conversations could change direction? This is where your English learning becomes more than just study. It becomes practice. When you read an article, do you check the date? Do you look at the source? Do you compare it with others? These are not just habits, they're acts of digital maturity. Acts of awareness. And when you do this in English, you're also strengthening your confidence, your comprehension, your independence. Maybe one day, you'll hear someone repeating something false, and you'll say, calmly and kindly, "Where did you hear that? Have you checked if it's true?" That moment could plant a seed in someone's mind, a seed of awakening. You won't change everyone. That's not your job. But your clarity can become contagious. And in today's world, that's powerful. Let's take a real-life example. There's a young man named Amir from Jordan who started learning English so he could study abroad. At first, he just focused on vocabulary and pronunciation. But as he improved, he began reading international news. He started following different thinkers on social media, comparing how people in different countries talked about the same event. And he realized some of the things he'd believed his whole life were not fully accurate. He felt confused, even angry. But instead of shutting down, he became curious. He started asking questions in class. He formed a discussion group. He didn't argue to win, he listened to understand. And over time, his view of the world expanded. His English became excellent, yes, but more importantly, he became a more open-minded, thoughtful person. That's the real goal. English was not just a skill. It was a doorway. You, too, have that doorway. Right now. Every time you listen to content like this, every time you read or reflect, you are stepping through it. You are building a mind that is harder to manipulate, and a voice that is stronger and more thoughtful. This doesn't mean you will always know the truth. No one does. But you'll be better at recognizing when something feels off. And you'll have the tools to investigate further. So here's a simple practice. Next time you read something online and it makes you feel strong emotion, fear, anger, excitement, pause. Don't share it yet. Ask yourself, who made this? Why? What's missing from the story? And if it still feels important, then share it, but do so with intention. In the next part, we'll go even deeper into how you can improve your English while strengthening your awareness. We'll look at useful vocabulary, key expressions, and habits you can build to become a more critical thinker and a more confident English speaker. Because language and truth, they grow together. Now that we've explored how awareness begins, let's turn that awareness into something practical, something you can use in both your English learning and your everyday life. Language is not just a way to communicate. It's a way to understand. Let's take a moment to highlight some important vocabulary and expressions from today's lesson. These are not only useful in conversations about media and truth, they also appear in academic writing, news reports, and global discussions. Our first word is manipulate. This means to control or influence someone, often in a dishonest or unfair way. For example, the video was edited to manipulate public opinion. It's a strong word, and when you use it, people know the situation involves deception. Next, narrative. This is a story or version of events. But in critical discussions, narrative often refers to the story a government, company, or media outlet wants you to believe. For instance, the official narrative was very different from eyewitness reports. Think of it like a lens, what you're shown, not necessarily the full picture. Then we have confirmation bias. This is a psychology term. It means we tend to look for information that supports what we already believe, and ignore what doesn't. If you hear someone say, "He only reads news that agrees with his opinion," that's confirmation bias in action. How about disinformation versus misinformation? They sound similar, but there's a difference. Disinformation is false information spread on purpose, usually to deceive. Misinformation is false information spread by mistake, without harmful intent. Example, the article was full of misinformation, but the writer didn't realize it. But if someone creates a fake article on purpose, that's disinformation. Another useful phrase, critical thinking. You've heard this before, but what does it really mean? It's the ability to think clearly and rationally, to question assumptions, to evaluate evidence. You might say, in today's world, critical thinking is more important than ever. Let's talk about deepfake. It's a combination of deep learning and fake. These are realistic-looking videos created using artificial intelligence to make it look like someone said or did something they never actually did. A common use in a sentence, the deepfake of the politician went viral before anyone realized it was fake. Here's another key phrase, media literacy. That means your ability to understand, evaluate, and question media messages. For example, schools should teach media literacy to prepare students for the digital world. It's like emotional intelligence, but for information. Let's also look at a few expressions that can make your English more natural when discussing complex topics. Try this phrase, it raises an important question. For example, this kind of censorship raises an important question about freedom of speech. Another is at first glance. This means when you first see it. For instance, at first glance, the video looked real. But something felt off. It's a great way to introduce your deeper analysis. And finally, we have the bigger picture. This phrase is used when encouraging someone to look beyond small details. Instead of focusing on one post, let's look at the bigger picture of online influence. It reminds your listener to step back and reflect. To make these expressions yours, don't just memorize them, use them. Write a short journal entry or a social media comment using some of these words. Talk to a friend and explain what a deepfake is. Or, next time you watch the news in English, ask yourself, what narrative is being presented here? The more you connect these words to real ideas, the more natural they become. This is how English becomes part of your identity, not just a subject, but a tool. A lens for seeing the world more clearly. And remember, learning a language deeply isn't just about fluency. It's about freedom. The freedom to question. To understand. To choose. As we move toward the final parts of this journey, I want to invite you to take a breath. Reflect for a moment. What surprised you in today's video? What challenged you? What do you want to explore further? Because in the next section, we'll bring everything together with a powerful reflection, and a preview of what comes next in your journey to become not just a better English speaker, but a more aware global citizen. Before we say goodbye, let's pause and take in what we've explored together. You started this video wanting to improve your English, but now, maybe you see that learning a language can also change how you see the world. That's the magic. That's the reason we learn. We live in a time when the tools to create false realities are more powerful than ever. Deepfakes, disinformation, viral rumors, they travel faster than truth. But here's the hopeful part: our ability to understand, to question, and to stay grounded in reality is also growing. You're proof of that. Every moment you spend learning, reflecting, and asking difficult questions builds your strength, not just as an English speaker, but as a thinker. Let me ask you something: how has this topic made you feel? Curious? Surprised? Maybe even a little uncomfortable? That's normal. It means you're awake. It means you're not numb to the noise. You're listening, not just hearing. And that makes a difference. Think of your mind like a compass. If you keep it tuned by learning, questioning, and listening carefully, it will guide you, even when the world around you is confusing. And just like a compass, it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to keep pointing you toward clarity. One of the most powerful things you can do in the digital age is something very small: slow down. Take a moment before reacting. A moment before believing. A moment before sharing. Because in that space between reaction and reflection is your power. And that moment is also where learning happens. Let's return to a simple idea: you don't need to change the world. You just need to see it clearly. That's been our quiet theme throughout this lesson. When you see clearly, you protect yourself. You protect others. You grow stronger, calmer, and more confident. And that confidence doesn't come from shouting louder than others, it comes from knowing what you stand on. So what do you stand on? Is it curiosity? Kindness? A love of truth? Maybe it's a quiet determination to become fluent, not only in English, but in life. Hold on to that. It's more important than ever. In the last part of this video, we'll close our journey with one final reflection. We'll send you off not with answers, but with the kind of questions that keep you learning, growing, and thinking long after the video ends. Before we part ways today, I'd like to leave you with something gentle, but powerful. A question. In a world full of noise, where videos can lie, headlines can twist the truth, and even our own minds can be tricked, what do you trust? It's not an easy question. But it's not meant to have just one answer. Maybe you trust your intuition. Or your experience. Maybe you trust your ability to learn, to adapt, to grow. Or maybe, right now, you're learning to trust less, not because you're afraid, but because you want to understand more. And that's exactly the right place to be. This journey we've taken together was never just about fake news or deep fakes. It was about you. Your power to slow down. To think clearly. To speak with awareness. And to use English, not just to pass an exam or get a job, but to become more connected to the world and to yourself. Maybe you'll go back and rewatch this video. And maybe the second time, you'll hear something new, an idea you missed before. That's the beauty of reflection. That's the power of returning. Because the world is changing fast. But so are you. And remember, every new word you learn is a tool. Every sentence you build is a step. Every idea you question is a light in the dark. So, As we close, let me ask you this: what kind of English learner do you want to become? Someone who memorizes? Or someone who understands? If this video made you think, even a little, then you're already on the right path. Before you go, please share your thoughts in the comments. Which part of the video stayed with you the most? Which word, phrase, or story helped you see something in a new way? Your experience matters, and your voice might help someone else feel less alone in their journey. If you found this lesson valuable, give it a like, share it with a friend, or come back to it later when the world feels confusing again. We'll still be here, learning together. Until next time, keep your mind open and your curiosity alive. And remember, learning English is also learning to stay awake. See you soon. Stay thoughtful. Stay kind.